welcome to the new episode of the podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us, Nana Fosua, and my co host Amit Thakkar.
Thank you.
In this session, we'll be diving deep into Nana's journey in the United States, how she came as an international student, and now how she's working as a program manager at Microsoft, and her journey throughout, like in college and then job search and everything in between, you'll hear in this episode. So let's begin. So, hi Nana, how are you?
I'm good, Pro. How are you?
Very good.
Good.
Tell us more about yourself, like your journey, how it started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me, I'm originally Ghanaian. I moved to America for college in 2018. And at the time, the goal was to, study finance, get a finance related role, and just, pivot into the finance industry. So I ended up doing a bachelor's degree in finance. I attended Holt International Business School in Boston. And when I graduated from my bachelor's degree, I literally didn't have a plan for myself. I wasn't I wasn't the most serious person in college during my bachelor's, program. And I remember when I went back home to Ghana, I remember having a conversation with my dad, and I told him that, hey, I think I need one more year to figure my life out. And that was what drove me to continue to pursue a master's degree also in finance. So I came back to America. Literally midway into my finance program, I realized that I actually don't really like finance. But then it was too late for me to change my program. And the question was, okay, what can I do? Most of the job experiences that I had was finance heavy. How do I pivot? And the closest thing at the time for me to pivot into was to become a business analyst. So I took a few certifications. I networked like crazy, and I ended up landing my first full-time role at Accenture as a business and integration architect analyst focusing on cloud migration. I worked at Accenture for almost 2 years, and towards the end of August this year, I joined Microsoft as a technical program manager on MSRC. MSRC basically stands for Microsoft Security Response Center.
Okay.
So
Okay,
yeah.
awesome.
For me, on a personal level, I'm a homebody. I don't do much. I love to spend time with family, friends, just do like very calm stuff, activities sometimes, as in when I'm in the mood. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Wow, that's really interesting. And you just like told us everything, like how
I
you
know.
came here,
It
what
was
you
more
did,
like a
and what were.
synopsis.
Yeah.
Covered.
So it was a brief introduction of what we are
Mhm.
going to talk about today. And
Okay.
so let's talk about what skills did you think were important and which were
Mhm.
not taught at school and they were important for your job market or this job search journey?
I would say for me, the relationships. Like when I, finally decided to get serious with my life, during my master's program, I realized that it wouldn't be possible for me to just, apply for a job and then actually get it. I needed to focus a lot on building my relationship. I remember I think after I graduated, a few months into my graduation, or a few months before I was going to start my master's degree, I actually had my first interview with Microsoft. But then at the time, I literally didn't know how to interview. I didn't know what, recruiters or
Right.
hiring managers looked for when interviewing a candidate. And before my interview, that was the first time I actually started focusing on building relationships. I remember I started randomly reaching out to people. This was an interview for like the FRP program, Microsoft's finance rotation program. And I started connecting with people because I wanted to understand what the interview process looked like. And that was what opened my eyes to how important relationships are, not only in terms of like what can I get from the person, but just having that community.
Correct.
So I would say, relationships. And I think it's very underestimated, in today's
Yeah.
economy.
Yeah. I think we don't learn that in school or
Exactly.
college.
So you
And
are
it's very important because. Mhm.
yeah, I beg your pardon. I just have this question. So you're
Okay.
recommending students right from the school or the high school days to focus more on networking part of the relationships?
Wait, what do you mean?
I'm saying professional networking as a domain. Are you recommending the students to develop the skill? Then how do you need to communicate with other people so that you
I think
develop the professional network?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like not only focusing on, creating relationships professionally, but also with the people you go to school with.
Okay.
Because majority of the people I made friends with are in companies that, at the time when I was looking for a job, I was trying to get into.
Correct.
But yeah, so I think it's more so thinking about it from this aspect, focusing on what you have access to. If
Right.
you find it difficult to network with people via LinkedIn, you can focus on using your alumni network in your school, for
Right.
example, and also your friends and people that are currently in the university, or people that were in the university at the time.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Mhm. And so, do you have any tips on how to network? If somebody wants to network, they are in school
okay.
right now, and
Mhm.
they have to look for jobs in their final year. But how can they just get started with this?
The first thing I'll say is do it. Like people overthink what network is, but you literally have to do it. So how I started the process was I just had this very short blurb, one introducing myself. I also inserted like what I wanted to get from the conversation. Hey, so for example, hey, I'm Nana. I'm interested in getting at the time. I'm interested in getting into Microsoft.
Hmm.
I'd love to learn more about how you got into the company and learn more about what you're currently doing, or what your role looks like. Something as simple as that, just like sending the message, right? And
Okay.
also with networking in school, for example, you can one thing I remember, one advice that I got is, if you feel uncomfortable to network with random people, start with people you have a little connection to. So for example, your alumni, it's easy to interact with them because, one, we went to the same university, and it's easy for us to have something in common even though I don't know you as a person.
Hmm.
And also, like, start networking with, in school, for example, just go up to people and introduce yourself. It's just about actually, taking the initiative and doing it, and everything else would
Correct.
come. And
Right. Right.
yeah, and for me, I see network as, having a simple conversation with someone, and it shouldn't be over thoughts, because it's literally just, talking to someone, asking questions, and then probably asking questions back to you. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the first step, to actually go out and
Yes. And
speak.
actually do it.
It
Yeah.
Yes.
keeps
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
developing over the time. Like more you experience, the more you develop that skill.
Exactly. And the more you get comfortable
Right.
speaking to people. So it's about taking the initiative,
Correct.
getting comfortable, and just treating it as, a new friend. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. That's like you catch up every week or every 2 weeks just to make sure like the person remembers you.
Mm,
And
I would say maybe it depends. It depends on what, like, how what type of vibe you get in the first one-on-one. So for example, you and I, Pearl, like,
yeah,
we in our one-on-one we got along very well. So obviously, if you reach out to me to have another one-on-one, I'll be more than happy to do that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
then there are sometimes when you connect with people that you don't really connect. So maybe with that, maybe on a quarterly basis in the year. But if you find someone you gel with from the start,
Right.
I would recommend you having like a one-on-one session every month. So yeah.
okay, okay, yeah, okay. That should be the frequency, like so that the
Exactly.
other person
Yeah.
remembers you, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and eventually you like people can become friends as well. I think from
I
this.
know. It's crazy. When I first moved to Seattle, I found most of my friends through LinkedIn. And
Oh,
I know, I just randomly reached out to people like, hey, I moved here.
wow.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. That's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And like my next question would be, like you said, you did your degree in finance, your
Uh-huh.
undergrad was in finance, and then your master's was also in finance. And
Yes.
then you realized that you didn't like finance, and then you wanted to do something else other than
Mm-hmm.
finance. So, like, did you have any background in business analytics because that was your first job? Or how do you
Mm-hmm.
recommend somebody who wants to go into business analytics? What skills were necessary
Okay.
for the first job at Accenture?
Yeah, so for me, with my finance program, we did a lot of well, yes, it was finance heavy, but we also did like some data analytics courses. So that really helped me, and I tried to highlight those aspects of my courses more on my resume, and also as and when I had interviews. So if someone wants to pivot into a business analytics role, the first thing I'll say is to take certifications. Like there are so many different platforms like Coursera, LinkedIn has, great courses. I can't think on top of my head, but like there are so many. Even for example, Google has like the Google Business Analytics, and I know
Correct.
they have scholarships and stuff to subsidize the cost. With where we are now, there are so many resources available to you to be able to make that pivot. And another thing I'll say is, um, if you have an opportunity to do personal projects relating to business analytics, that will really help, especially if you do not come from a business analytics background. And another thing, network. Like I cannot emphasize that enough. And
Right.
with regards to your question with my experience at Accenture, so because I was new, everything was taught to me, and it wasn't anything, it wasn't a very difficult pivot for me, I would say. And I also think because of like the different certifications I took, it just made the transition in very easy, and it was something I was actually very interested in. So yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I
But
wanted to ask something about projects, like how did you
mhm.
come, access the projects? I mean, the free projects which are usually available on the net, you went for that, or like you tried to access it, the paid projects as well as they are available?
Oh, okay. So because I'm an international student, I cannot do paid projects, but then
That's
I
true.
use platforms like Forage. They
Yeah,
have,
forages.
yeah. So I took some of their I wouldn't necessarily call them like courses. They are more so like projects with different companies, and it
Correct.
also helps like companies like Goldman,
Goldman Sachs,
KPMG,
correct.
Accenture. They have different projects available on Forage for you to take, and even though yes, you didn't necessarily work at those companies, but having those types of projects with those company names
Correct.
helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
job
So
I
that
application.
think,
creates an
yeah.
impression in front of the recruiter.
Exactly.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you won't believe, like Amit and I, we do this thing. Like we
Uh-huh.
provide free courses to a lot of students in India.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I didn't
Yeah.
know.
We
Wow.
keep on recommending the free courses to our community, the Wiseversity. It's like the
Oh.
students they get. We usually recommend free courses so that everyone can access easily. Like,
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like otherwise, like people will be spending $100, $200, and
I
like
know.
there's no limit to that. And we focus on free education. So that's our objective.
Okay.
And we are working in that direction.
Okay. I have
I
a
just
quick
wanted
question.
to add here. Yeah.
How does that work? Do you guys like create the courses, or you have partnerships with different companies that?
we don't tie up. We try to do research. Like, for
Okay.
example, Goldman Sachs, the 4H
Uh-huh.
part you said,
Oh, okay.
virtual
Okay.
assistantship, it's free,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah,
we
it's
try
free.
to do research and we try to bring out the most valuable and the certifications as well as projects or courses with
Okay.
high credibility, but they are available for free, or something which is extremely
Okay.
affordable. So
And
Okay.
sometimes
sometimes,
companies approach us,
yes.
uh, like they want to pay or
Really?
they want us to promote their product, but we don't take any
We
money as
don't
of
take.
right now.
No,
Okay, right
until now we
now.
haven't done any type of promotion on the channel just because of this thing, so that sometimes it may happen to
Mhm.
it may happen in future that whatever the content or whatever certification the company was trying to provide, it may go haywire, it may go otherwise, something
Mhm.
which may not be accepted by the recruiter. This has happened with one of my content creator friend, because people may go with that certification, and then when they go with that certification, when they complete it, when they go in front of the recruiter says, oh, we don't accept it. Why? Because we don't recognize
Yeah.
this firm.
Yeah.
The credibility matters. That is the reason we try to put up only that thing, something which is recognizable, for example, Coursera free projects and all.
That's good. Yeah.
That's
That,
Yeah.
that you're 100% right. So yeah.
So I have one question.
Okay.
Like it's trending nowadays. Like,
Uh-huh.
what's your take on AI? Is
Yeah,
it
yes.
like
Mhm.
is it gonna be like doom for future tech, or like what do you think? Like,
I don't think so. I use AI every day now in my. I think to be okay. Actually, let me refine my answer. I think it's a little bit of both. And also I think it also depends on how we use it as individuals. So we also have a responsibility, yes, as much as the companies that own the specific AI tool we are using have roles to play. We also do. So for me, I love AI. I love ChatGPT. I literally use ChatGPT for my interview prep and so many other things I do not want to talk about. So yeah, I think AI is good, and I just cannot wait to see all of the amazing things being created with AI. So
What are those skills which are highly essential in today's era that any candidate must have when it comes to AI, so that they can give a proper beat in front of the recruiters?
okay.
They can match the requirement of the recruiter, that they do know something about AI. What are those skills?
I've noticed, a trend with, more companies, being interested in people that have machine learning skills.
Correct.
So I feel like machine learning, and there was another thing, it just escaped me, but those type of skill sets aren't very popular in
Right.
today's
Right.
software engineering, data engineering. They
Correct.
have become very saturated. PM, TPM is a very saturated area.
Right.
But if people lean towards machine learning and other very heavy technical, background, I think that would, really help. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to help them, especially if they want to move into the technical field.
Yes.
And
Yes.
suppose if they
Yes.
are from the non-tech background, so they must know at least like generative AI, the
Yes,
prompting part.
I think yes, I think you should know, but also you should be open to learning.
Correct, correct.
Yes, you
Awesome.
should be open to learning. So it's a little bit of both. Yeah, some people are lucky, not coming from the tech background, they know,
Right.
but others are not so lucky. But what differentiates you from those people is if you are willing to learn and if you have a growth mindset.
Correct.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
So,
more like that coachability part you are stressing upon.
Yes. Yes.
okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
often keep on asking my students, like on the channel, like this is absolutely off the record. I often keep on asking people on my channel, you need to be learnable, you need to be coachable, you need to be
No,
coachable
it's so
special.
important. Like
Yeah.
it's so
And they
important.
say, why do I need to be coachable? So this is the point.
No, it's so important because I even tied this to my Accenture role. Like I didn't have any experience in
Right.
cloud migration, but then I was open to learning. I in my current role here at Microsoft as a TPM, I do not have any security experience. But one thing that I keep hearing, across board, especially on my team, is the fact that I'm very willing to learn and
Right.
I'm not scared to take up projects or
Right.
challenges. And yes, I'm new. I might make mistakes, but they prefer that than someone who isn't interested in learning, doesn't want to
Learning.
try, doesn't want to make mistakes. That's how you grow and that's how you become better.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a very important skill that you have, and everyone should have it actually.
Absolutely.
Coachability. They should be ready to learn every day,
Correct.
actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, actually.
So
Yeah.
my question is related to this only. Like you transitioned from a non-technical role to a technical role.
Okay.
So how was it transition? Like, did you do some technical courses, or how did that work for you? Like you landed a technical program manager role at Microsoft.
So I think it worked out for me because of what I did at Accenture. So, during my interview, I was able to speak towards my experience, at Accenture. But when I joined my team, I'm going to be completely transparent. I was so confused. Like in meetings, especially in the first weeks, I'm like, what are these people even talking about? I literally didn't understand majority of what was going on. But eventually, things started to make sense. So that's where me being open to learn, and I attended multiple training sessions, and even today it's like I'm 2 months into the company and I'm still learning. And when I spend a lot of time networking with folks at Microsoft, the one thing they have emphasized on is the learning never stops, and it's time to change your role when you get bored or when you stop learning. So yes, the transition was hard, but it's not going to stop here. Like I'm 100% sure in the future, if I do decide to, look for new opportunities, I will probably find myself in a similar situation. I feel like for me, I thrive you know, in unfamiliar territories, and yeah, it was difficult, but um, So far, so good.
Just a
That's what I'll
question.
say.
Here's a question from my side. From Accenture to Microsoft,
Okay.
you had to somehow prove to the employers that you would be the person most preferred by them, right? There is a
Okay.
point wherein we prove them
Mhm.
during the interviews, especially. My point is, what were those factors? For example, like certificates. Were these the same things you reiterated earlier? Like were certificates or projects which you showed them, so that that convinced them? What persuaded them most? That okay, fine, you are transitioning, so that should be accepted as a point. Like your
Okay.
projects. Have you done those projects or the certificates? Did you have a portfolio already created so that you could put in front of them?
So the first thing was one, my resume spoke for itself, and two,
Okay.
I understood, or I was able to talk through my experience at Accenture.
Okay.
And with research and also with the helps of my mentors, I was able to talk about my experience at Accenture in a way that aligned to what a TPM and Microsoft
Right.
would be doing. Yes, and there are a few things that I did. Just general tips here. One, I prepped like crazy. Like I made sure I understood with every example, because Microsoft is very heavy on behavioral question, like tell me about a time
Wow.
when type
Yeah.
of.
Okay.
I made sure that whatever example I would probably be saying in the interview, I could answer follow-up questions, because I noticed that during some of the different interview loops I went through, most of the interviewers kept probing into the examples that I gave. So it's not only being able to give an example, but it's also having the ability to properly one, articulate yourself in a very concise manner, but also answer whatever follow-up questions they have in a way that makes sense to the interviewer. Another very random tip: be excited to be there. Like smile. It's just the little things. Like just just be curious. One, I was super excited to be interviewing at Microsoft because it took me a very long time to land my interview. But I was also very curious. When it was time for me to ask my interviewers questions, I did. And I remember when I interviewed, so I had my 4 loops, and then I had to have 2 extra interviews to see if I was a team fit for my current team. And I remember when I got into my interview session with my skip, he didn't ask me any question. He was like, "What questions do you have for me?" And that was what the interview was. And you have to come prepared with questions, because you don't know if you would be found, in a situation like this. And I remember we spent like I literally spent I think it was 45 minutes to an hour. I literally spent the time interviewing him, asking him questions. So just come prepared, know your experience, know what you're talking about, and also be curious about the person you're interviewing, and yeah, be excited, and let that translate during your entire process.
Yeah, there must be this positive vibe they should sense. Like you should have that.
Like we are sensing right now from you.
Yeah.
Wow. So, like, I wanted, like, your Microsoft interview is a journey in itself. Like, you started very early, and then it took a lot of turns, ups and downs, and it was a very long journey. So, we would want to know about this journey, how faith came in, and like, that's the first part. And then, secondly, like, what were like, you had 6 interviews. Generally, people don't have these many interviews.
I know.
So, what were
Actually,
each, like, what was each interview like?
Okay.
How did you pursue that thing, and what helped you, how did you prepare? So these are a lot of questions, so we can go one.
Yeah. So I told you, at the beginning of the call, that I had my first initial interview with Microsoft in 2021.
Okay.
And it took 3 years for me to land my second interview, which is crazy. So let me just give you a very in-depth overview. So when I came back from Ghana, I remember I had a conversation, because I just really needed a new job, because I really wasn't growing in my previous role. And as I said earlier, I thrive in spaces where I'm being challenged. And I had a conversation with my brother, and he said, there's a conference called NSB. I didn't know what NSB was at the time. And he suggested that I go. So, fast forward, I attend NSB. Mind you, I'm Christian. I just want to emphasize that. I kept, praying. And I remember I told God that I'm not going to leave Nesby without something from Microsoft, whether that's an interview, a job offer, whatever it is. I cannot leave empty-handed. So the first day, I was able to get into Nesby early, and I literally spent 3 hours trying to talk to everybody at the booth because I'm very big on relationships, and I didn't know who would be willing to help me. Basically, I remember I met my initial recruiter. I'm not going to mention her name just for privacy purposes,
Then
but
it's
I
okay.
met
Yeah.
my initial recruiter and then my second recruiter. I'll come back to them, but I just want to emphasize. So after the three, I was trying to network with everybody. I met people, but then you I still was there. Like I didn't meet that person who I knew for sure would help me. So I was like, okay, you know what? I've tried my best. Let me go talk to other companies. When I was leaving the booth, I saw this man walk in, so tall, with like the Microsoft shirt, and something was like, I have to go talk to him. So we ended up having a conversation. We spoke for about an hour at Nesby. And to be honest, I didn't think too much of the conversation. It was a very good conversation, but I didn't think too much of it. And he during the conversation, he said he was a principal PM. We connected on LinkedIn, and towards the end of the conference that day, that was when I met my initial recruiter. And also during the day, I met my second recruiter. So fast forward, I come back to Seattle. Didn't have an interview. It was just a very process because I literally took a leap of faith going to Atlanta for the conference, and I basically came back empty handed. So on Monday, I remember I reached out to my initial recruiter. I, sent her a message, and she also gave me an email. I emailed her like, hey, we met. I'm interested in Microsoft. And at the time, they were hiring for TPM roles at Nesby. I just want to emphasize that. I didn't get a response from her. And then the next day, on Tuesday, I woke up early, Seattle time, and I see a message from the PM, like the principal PM man that I met. He was like, hey, he was very, impressed by the conversation we had. And mind you, I didn't think too much. He's my current mentor today. Like I really didn't think too
Wow,
much
that's nice.
of the conversation. He was like, he would like to refer me for the role. Therefore, roles at Microsoft. He ended up referring me for 3 roles. Two of them didn't work out, and then he also referred me for the TPM who they were hiring, at the conference. And unknown to me, the recruiter that I met at Nesby was the recruiter for the role. So I think he pinged her internally, and she actually ended up responding to my message. And she said, because this man gave me a very good recommendation because we met at the conference, she put me in the loop. Okay, cool. I get that. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited. Finally, I get to interview Microsoft. Tell me why my interview. I'm being very transparent. With my entire experience. So yeah, my interview was cancelled, I think, twice. So I remember the first time, I don't know what was going on. At the time, Microsoft also had like a hiring free. So I also think that came to play with like scheduling my interview. I wasn't internally at the time. I don't know what was going on, but yeah, they canceled my interview twice. I remember I was very sad and very frustrated. But even though I was doing all of those things, I was praying fervently and I was prepping. Like I didn't have an interview, but then I work by faith, not by sight. So fast forward, I ended up having my loop. So I remember my first interview was with a TPM. Literally, when she asked me, "Oh, tell me about yourself," and I said, "Oh, I'm from Ghana." She's like, "Oh my god, she goes to Ghana every year." Mind you, she's not Ghanaian, she's Black American. And we ended up speaking about Ghana for like 20 minutes. So that was good. I was like, okay, you know what? I know the first interview, yeah, that was a good one. Then the second interview was with the man I met at the conference, which was so random.
Oh my god.
I know, so
That was the best part. Like you met him, you talked to him for an hour at the conference, and then you're meeting him.
so random. Like when I saw him, I'm like, in my head, I was like, oh my god, what are you doing here? Like, what in the odds?
Faith
But
in
then,
working. Yeah.
yeah, but let me tell you, he really grilled me. Like the interview I had with him was the hardest.
Oh my
Like,
god.
really, yeah. Because I mean, obviously, I had met initially, and I'm glad he did that because I think from his perspective, he didn't want it to be like, oh, because we met, I would have it easier than other candidates. So no, his interview with all of the 4 loops that I had was the most difficult.
No.
And then I had, 2 other interviews. Those ones really went well. So, 1 week later, haven't heard anything from Microsoft, from my recruiter. I literally send an email like, hey, what's up? And then they say, yeah, they like me, but I have something called higher recommendation, which basically means that because I don't know if they do this for every conference, but for my experience, because I was a conference hire, they didn't have like a specific team looking for a TPM. So yes, I've done well in the interview, but then the next phase is for them to align me to a team that
Okay.
needs a TPM from the level that they were hiring me at. So they said they have 90 the whole process. No, they are going to try to find me a team within 90 days. And if they don't find me a team within 90 days, I basically have to start from scratch. So the first month, nothing. Mind you, my brother was interning at Microsoft. So every time I was here, TPM, no role, he would give me the hiring manager. I'll email them like, hey, I've interviewed, they said I did well in the interview. I can even connect you to my recruiter if you I don't know if you don't believe me or something. And like the hiring managers weren't responsive for 2 months straight. So mind you, 60 days have gone by. Nothing. I was so frustrated. So towards the end of June, my birthday is in July, and I believe in like career seasons, and I was turning 25 at the time. Oh my god, not me revealing my age, but I was turning 25 at the time, and it was in my spirit to just go on a fast and just pray and spend time with God. So I'm obedient. I listened. I kept praying, fasting. So first week of July, the first few days into my fast, I saw my second recruiter. I met her at Nesby. So that's where she plays into my story. She made a post. The post was nothing relating to, looking for a job, nothing job related, but then something in my spirit kept saying, hey, I need to reach out to this woman.
Okay.
So I reach out to her, she responds to me and she actually schedules a call with me for the next day. When we get on the call, she was like, oh my God, it's so interesting how I reached out to her at this time because she just got this role, like my current role. And mind you, she said she doesn't, hire for my level. She usually what's it called? Hires for like principal level, but this is the first TPM like level 60 role she has gotten. And she was like, yeah, she's not promising anything, but she sent my information to my now manager and to see if they'll be interested in, interviewing me. So a few days go by, I get a call from her. I start shouting because in my head, I've gotten the job and like they want me because obviously I interviewed, had my follow. And she was like, oh my God, Nana, calm down. You don't have the job yet. You have to interview again. So she tells me I have to do 2 interviews with my manager and my skip. And my first interview is the next day. I'm like, how? First off, this is a TPM for security. I do not have security experience. How am I going to prep for an interview in like 24 hours? And the reason why I stopped prepping, I wasn't as diligent with interview prepping was no one told me that there might be a chance or a possibility for me to re-interview again if they find a team for me. So I have less than 24 hours to interview. I told myself, I'm not going to prep. I just prayed because with every single effort I put in within, the from after my loop till now, nothing worked. The only thing that genuinely changed things for me is me being in prayer and fasting. So she tells me that yes, I read a little about security, but I don't even know if that really helped. I go into the interview and me and my manager, we just click. I wouldn't even call that an interview. It was just a conversation. And if you know my manager, he's a very chill guy. So that I knew, okay, that went well. Cool, perfect. Now, I had my interview with my manager on the Friday. So I had a weekend to prep with my skip. But I didn't prep, I just prayed. I didn't prep. Because I'm like, and also I was just exhausted. I was exhausted. I've been trying to get into Microsoft for almost 3 years. Like, I was just tired. That was the truth. Before my the second recruiter reached out and before she responded to my message, I remember I gave up. So for me, even though yes, I went into the fasting, in my heart of hearts, I had given up because one, my OPT was expiring next year, and I remember I started making plans towards going to school because I wasn't ready to move back to Ghana. So for me, like I had given up, and my 90 days was almost going to be up either way. So I mean, before at the time, yeah. So I have my interview with my skip. It goes really well. And they said they'll get back to me, in a few days. And I remember that was the week of my birthday, and I was still fasting, all of that. I go for a church conference. I kept praying about it. On Wednesday, so I had my interview, my skip on a Monday. So Wednesday was my birthday. So I kept praying. I celebrated my birthday at the church event, and then the next day was the last day of the conference, and we had a morning session. I remember when I woke up, I don't know. There was this peace that I had never felt. I don't know how to verbally explain like the peace, but I just knew in my heart that God had done it. No one had said anything. I hadn't received any email, nothing, but I just knew that He has done it. So I remember when I even went for the church sessions, I just kept thinking, I told myself and I told God, I know what, I'm not going to pray like you have already done. I'm going to praise you and thank you, taking, this leap of faith that what, you're a faithful God, and I know you have already done this. You didn't bring me this far to leave me. You
Correct.
get it. So I thank him after the conference. Literally, I get an email from my recruiter. Next steps, 3 p.m. I know. And she schedules a call with me. She told me I got it. I cried. I was crying. I was laughing. I couldn't believe it.
This is the best
That
feeling
was
ever.
your moment. That was
And
absolutely
Amit,
your
you
moment.
don't know right now what day is this? Like, this is the you tell Nana, like
Oh
you.
yeah. So during the call, so in the morning, because I interviewed, in April. If you ever apply to a job at Microsoft, in your portal, you see applications, interview, and some other
Yeah.
places to. So because I had interviewed, like the job requisite was in the interview like slot, but then when I woke up on that Thursday, they had removed it. So in my head, I thought, okay, maybe I've gotten the job, maybe that's why they have removed it. So when I was on the call with my recruiter, she says, "Oh, like what's the job requisite for the previous role I interviewed for?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know, like." I thought you removed it because I got the job. And she was like, okay, she's going to put me on mute and she's going to like figure things out. She comes back a few minutes later. She's like, oh, the reason why they removed it is because that is the 90th day, and you're not the only candidate they removed. So as in, like, this is the last day. That Thursday was the last day for me to get aligned on a team, or else I would have had to start from scratch. So
So she got the job on the last
I
day,
got the
90th
job on
day.
the
That
last day. The
that's
90th
that's
day.
absolutely God in his working mode.
I, I, I remember when she said that I was shaking. I could not even process what she just said.
Yeah.
That was how I
It's
knew. Oh my
totally
goodness!
unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, like on the 90th, like what in the odds? What in the odds? Like if I don't know what I didn't do to try to get me, a Microsoft job. But when I finally stopped and I let go and I let God, He showed up. All of the efforts I tried to put in almost 3 years, it took God 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy. Okay, I think you asked me another question, but I forgot. So I got carried away.
That's so. It's absolutely inspiring. Whatever you said, what we found out is like your
Mhm.
journey. There is a saying like you nobody can understand your
Yeah.
hustle better than yourself, right?
No,
Your
literally.
hustle was filled with intuition, it was filled with grit, it was filled with your
Mhm.
own faith, your own leaning.
Mhm.
Whatever was
Mhm.
there, it was all because of
and
you and your belief. That's
Yeah.
actually inspiring.
and hard work and persistence. Like, you were
Absolutely.
there all the time, and like being an international student, like our
Mm.
journey is very difficult.
It's difficult.
Nobody can understand it.
It's like everything is against you. Like we have very limited companies we can apply to, but it's just a handful of companies are even interested in sponsoring us. It's not easy. It's not easy. So I'm just very grateful.
Yeah, very, very, very grateful. And like,
Yeah.
it's the best feeling, like when you have 90 days and then your OPT is expiring
I
next year,
know.
and then you have to do everything over.
Exactly. My OPT was expiring next year, and I'm like, God, what am I going to do? Like, do I have to? And the thing is, I don't mind moving back to Ghana, but I just wasn't ready to make
Yeah.
that move yet.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, is this it? You guys are making me emotional.
Yeah, but this is so like this is a beautiful journey, and obviously with a lot of ups and downs,
Mm.
and
Don't
really
say.
inspiring actually, because you didn't give up. Like you did give up. Like that was not
I
giving
did.
up. You gave interviews, and then you were thinking, okay, I let it go. That was not giving up.
I did give up though. Like, I mean, well, I don't know. I gave up, but then deep down in my heart, there was still a little,
Little hope. Yeah.
little hope that,
Yes.
like, something like God didn't bring me this far to leave me. Like, no,
Yeah.
he's not. That's not who he is. My mom always says something. Even if in the last second, like
Mm.
God can still show up. So I'm like, God, like you cannot tell me, I had this interview, I met all of these people, I met the man during my interview. You can't tell me you orchestrated all of these things for me not to get this job. Like that's not the type of God I serve. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
God
just you
has
have
beautiful
to
plans.
persist. You have to
Yeah.
keep on persisting.
Yes, and you see, people sometimes when faith comes in, people think you just have to have faith and not play a role. Whatever you have to do, whether you've been Christian or whatever
Mm.
religion or whatever thing you believe in, you still have a role to play. You can't just
True.
expect that thing to take full accountability of whatever outcome you're expecting. You still have to show up. You still have to put in effort. You still have to
Correct.
keep going. Yes, you will probably cry during the process, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you still have to show up, and that's the part most people keep forgetting. But you have to play a role in
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
whatever
And
outcome you
Tears
want.
also come to give us a clear vision, right? So we can see things better.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I was just, Amit, you remember like we have written in our book, like how law of attraction works. So people generally they just pray, okay, attract, but you have to work as well. Like
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. You are
and
100%
this
right.
is the most like you have to take action for
Yeah.
God to work with you, like God to help you. You
Yeah.
don't have God to tell
We've
your
written a
friends.
book. The framing, the subtitle, its book is called as Unhook. We will share it with you once it is
Okay.
released. The thing
Okay.
is, it's based on self help and spiritualism per se.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, the what she's trying to say, it's a law of attract action. We say it's law of attraction,
Uh-huh.
but in reality, it's not attraction. You break it down, you keep attract, and
Exactly.
then you bring action to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't sit idle and expect that
And
God will give
exactly, and
everything.
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
Not
Yeah.
even, not only with looking for a job, whether that's starting a business, getting that
true.
contract, project, whatever it is, you have a role to play, and
Yeah.
people need to remember that all the time.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, that was so
That's
good. Actually, like I heard this story before, but I was so curious, this way.
it's refreshing almost every time.
So, like I wanted to ask, like for our viewers who are interested in knowing, what questions did they ask you in the interviews? Like, what type of questions were they? And if you can give one example or two
Okay.
examples.
Yeah. So I'll say first. Okay. This is I had my interview a long time ago, so
Yeah, yeah.
it might not be very accurate, but what I want to emphasize on for my experience with the TPM role, it was very tell me about a time when. So, for example, tell me about a time when you had a conflict. Tell me about a time when you, worked with a team, that type of things. Those are not the. I remember it was tell me about a time
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
remember like
yeah, yeah. You don't obviously
specific
don't remember the
examples.
exact
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
That's okay.
But okay, these type of questions are being asked in the interviews.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how do you suggest students or professionals should prepare for these
Okay.
interviews? Like, because I think there are follow up questions as well after these
Mhm.
questions. So, how should they prepare?
Yeah, so what I used was the STAR format, like situation, task, action, and
Research.
results. But I also included what I learned, and I tried to tie that into, I learned A, B, and C, and I'll be able to apply this, when I join Microsoft as a TPM. So that's one thing that I really like, because every time I'll say, hey, I learned this. We're like, oh my god, yeah. It also helps. It's kind of like a conversation starter. You're like, oh my god, yes. And if they do have a similar experience that I did, they also tell me their example. As I said earlier, come with questions. Be curious, and understand what the role is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
And that involves you reading the job description, maybe connecting with people in current TPM roles or whatever role you are interviewing for. Also understand what this is specific to Microsoft. Understand Microsoft's culture. Microsoft is very big on growth mindsets. Whatever example you give, make sure you are tying that to having a growth mindset.
Okay.
So, and Microsoft, and also Microsoft has, I think, like the 4 or 5 pillars. I've forgotten now, but I know growth mindset, diversity, I think collaborate. I don't know. I don't remember. But like they have, 4 pillars that you can easily Google on the,
Okay.
on their website. Try and ensure that if at least one or two of those pillars are being, tied into your example, it gives the the interviewer the sense that okay, this person, even though not at Microsoft yet, but already operates like a Microsoft person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
And
and
I
then
think that's
oh, sorry.
no,
Another
no.
tip that I usually give is when I've forgotten a specific question, but instead of so, for example, if they say why are you interested in Microsoft, this is a psychological thing that I do, and I tell my mentees always say I like that you say we instead of them. When you say we in the interviewer's head, it's like, oh my god, this person's already part of us. Like, so for example, I love that, we are Microsoft instead of saying like you are Microsoft. Like just
Right.
little things like that actually
Okay.
goes a long
So
way.
it's
Yeah.
like a
It's
psychological.
a psychological.
I get it. Yeah. So before getting inside the organization,
You're
we
already
are
inside.
persuading them
Yes.
that they
Yes.
accept us as a part of the organization by saying we.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
actually really unique, yeah.
I
Seriously,
know.
it's absolutely stunning.
It's it really is the little things. And last thing, be yourself. Oh my
Okay.
goodness, be yourself. There are so many people, you know, I didn't even know this at the time, but even for my, team fit interview, and my manager told me he interviewed 7 other people. Initially I thought I was the only one being
Mhm.
interviewed
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
role. But and I asked him, why did you choose me? He said, one, I was myself. Like
Okay.
he liked that I came in, I was energetic, I was excited, I had questions. Be yourself. Like so many people have experiences at, the top companies, Meta, you name it. But what sincerely differentiates you from other candidates is your ability to be authentically you and just show up, the way you are. People really appreciate that, and people can easily spot it when you are trying to fake it. Yeah.
Hmm. They
Yeah,
can
that's
detect it easily.
amazing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I have this question, like you said, be yourself, and people were coming from Meta and other FAANG companies probably
Mhm.
to interview for this role, and you were selected because of your
Uh-huh.
attitude, and you were being
Mhm.
yourself and your persona. Like they realized, okay, we want this person because she's so authentic, and we want to have her on our team. So I'm just curious, did you ever have imposter syndrome?
Oh yes. Oh yes. But then there are a few things that help. Even now, like as I told you, like when I joined the team, I didn't understand what it was being saying. But I think for me, affirmations really help. I try to speak very positive about myself, whatever situation that I'm in. Even before joining Microsoft, I used to always say, "Oh, I'm I'm at the company." Like I always speak positive, even when we both know that situation is not looking probable. Like I
Right.
always speak life. Because even the Bible says life and death lies in the power of the tongue, and those who love it eats its fruit. So I'm a firm believer in okay, yes, my reality does not seem, the best, but I have control with whatever comes out of my mouth. So speaking life and also learn. Because the reason why you probably feel like an imposter is because you don't know.
Hmm.
And knowledge is the only bridge to help, combat that feeling. So
Right.
I would say learn, but also speak life, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
like you're asking to increase the self-awareness part by learning.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's amazing, amazing, amazing.
It's so crazy. Like when you sent me, just a brief overview of what this call would entail, I wanted to like prep, But then I didn't have time because this week was very busy. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, shoot. Like, I just realized I don't even know what I'm going to ask me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be myself and answer
Yeah, yeah.
from
And that's what we wanted
yeah.
actually.
So I'm glad. You see? That you see? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That is required, everyone. So you learn like you have to be yourself, and things will fall in place, and you'll attract whatever you want if you're being yourself and you're working towards it.
I like that.
Okay.
Working towards it.
Yeah, you have to work.
Working
Put in
part
your
is stressed.
Yeah.
okay. So, what is the most rewarding part of the job? Like you were student couple years ago, and then you started working. So, like, what do you think is like very rewarding? Like you're working here.
The people. I love my team. And yeah, yes, even though I was looking for a role and I really wanted a new job, for me it was more so, getting a great manager and
Yeah.
a very good team. And I have that. So for me, it's the people. Do you guys mind being in like just a few seconds in my TikTok? Is that fine?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm doing like a day in a life kind of thing.
Okay, wow.
It's okay. It's absolutely good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I'm gonna learn a lot from you because we can like do something like a vlog or I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. So do you want us to ask question, right?
Yes.
Like, let me just ask you so that you can record it.
Yeah. Yeah.
1 sec.
No worries. I do have, one question for you guys also. So.
Okay.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Should I do you have a question for me, or I should ask my question?
You can ask your question first, and then we can ask.
Okay. Do you think this was helpful? Because, do you guys have feedback for me? Is there anything you would have, preferred I highlighted more on? Is there any question that you feel like I didn't really answer? Be completely transparent with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. This podcast was one of the best podcasts that we've done. Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Actually,
It was stunning. I mean,
no.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Amit,
please,
you can
please.
go ahead. Like,
What usually when we speak to our guest, that there is a line of professionalism wherein they usually the guest fear and even the host fear, like when it comes to the topics like spiritualism and personal life. So when you were sharing that and your journey, I mean, it was more than what we expected, something which we wanted, and that is why we can place it like A plus plus. Actually, yeah, it's not just about professionalism. Like, yeah, we are not living in a corporate world. Like, I mean, we work in a corporate world, but the world is not filled with corporate etiquettes, right? So the way the world is actually running, you know, the reality, the stark reality, the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride, and everything. Nobody shares it so eagerly and openly, and that's what you did. That is why it became
I'm
inspiring.
so glad. I really hope this, session helps someone.
Yeah,
Or at least
Absolutely
encourages
would.
them. So yeah.
yeah, it was actually very helpful because you were very open, very transparent in what went throughout this journey, and it was really, really helpful because if somebody is listening to this and they'll understand, okay, this is not a one time thing,
Correct.
like not a 1 day thing or a 1 month thing.
It
It's a lot of time, effort, a lot of dedication to achieve what you have achieved. And you were so transparent. Generally, people are not very like they are not very open regarding this. They I don't know. They try to hide something, or they don't want to discuss everything. Like it's like a secret or something. And this was actually really nice because you were very transparent and you were open about what happened, how this worked out for you. Otherwise, people are like, yeah, I got lucky and like I'm here.
Yeah.
It's not. It's BS.
Yeah.
Because obviously you worked hard. And that's why you get it. Like you don't get anything for free or like just like that. So you worked hard and you discussed your journey. So I was really impressed, and
Okay.
I'm hopeful, and I know that
Mm.
our audience will be very grateful for
Oh,
this wonderful thing.
thank you guys. This is my first podcast. I'll send my boyfriend. Oh my goodness, I don't even know what I'm going to say.
This,
But I'm
this,
so
this was
glad.
actually very helpful,
So,
and this is going to help the students community, professionals community a lot,
yes,
especially
yes,
the
and
kinds of layoffs which is happening. I mean, during
yeah.
these times, they what they need is not just facts.
Mhm.
They don't need facts. Facts is there altogether. Chat GPT can give you facts like, yeah, do this,
Oh
do that.
yeah,
But
hundred
what about
percent.
the substance, the reality?
Yeah.
Something
Mhm.
which you can learn it only from a hustler, a person who hustles for real, right?
Yes.
That's it.
Amit, what about you? What do you do? I don't think you introduce yourself.
Myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm into basically, as you know, content creation, and I do.
Oh.
Yeah, content creation is there. Wiseversity, we've got like
Mm-hmm.
more than 2 lakh followers, 2.2
Okay.
to 5 followers. 39K are there on YouTube and
Oh wow.
1.75 lakhs are there on Instagram.
And
Humbly
75
speaking,
on Instagram. Yeah.
Hanji. So the thing is, I'm into also business consultancy. I'm into
Okay.
nutraceutical business wherein we provide the marketing and sales advice to these
Okay.
companies. And I'm also
Okay.
helping, we are also building together, we are building a platform for professionals. So that was
Okay.
actually a secret part which we didn't want to reveal. It's
Oh.
more like a profession. It's like a startup in the making.
Uh-huh.
Along with that, and we are also involved. Myself, I'm involved into basically the tech part of that project.
Okay.
So we are trying
Okay.
to build up,
Okay.
and so
Okay.
I'm
that
doing the business part.
yeah,
Okay.
business loan.
So, are you based in America?
No, no, I'm in
Oh,
India
okay.
right now.
Oh wow. What's the time?
It's 12 a.m. It's 12 a.m.
Oh my gosh. You should have told me. I could have
No,
accommodated. I
that's okay.
didn't know. Oh my gosh.
The hustle part, didn't I tell you?
Yes.
You hustle in silence and let the world know it later on.
Yes.
So I
Wow.
think,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
one last question. Sorry. Oh, you have a question from
Yes, I
us?
have one last question.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet and how did this partnership happen? I'm just curious.
Okay. So we met in India.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to college. Like we were in a coaching together.
Okay.
And that's where, like, we learned about each other that, okay,
Okay.
he's also an entrepreneurial person.
Okay.
I'm also into entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, let's collaborate and take this
Mm-hmm.
to the next step and
I
let's start something new. And
Okay.
then I started it during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And like we just started together. So I used to do the research, used to make videos. Sometimes I make videos, but that's very rare. But I'm trying to be consistent now. So I'll be posting very often
No,
now.
she supports a lot. Basically, she helps a lot of in a lot of areas, especially the research and the strategic part. I do insist that you've got a very great surrounding, but somehow due to lack of time, obviously you're living in US and you have to look up a
Yeah.
lot of things. So it's quite understandable. I can empathize with her. But then too, she is very
Yeah.
supportive, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to this podcast. This such a wonderful
Yeah.
podcast is an example, right?
Yeah. Okay. No questions.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Perfect. So I had this last question. Like,
Okay.
finally, what's the next step for you? And like, what's your long-term career aspiration?
Okay. Okay, but transparent. So my parents both own their own business. So for me, I feel like no, I know for a fact that, me being in the position I'm in is giving me the resources I need to eventually start my own business. I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like or what, that business would be. But I know for a fact that career is just a pit stop for me. I don't know for how long, but the main goal is for me to, start and, hopefully by God's grace, run a very successful business. Yeah, hopefully, when I figure that part out, I would love to come back on the podcast.
Yeah, yeah,
Have a full
definitely.
conversation about that.
You're soon to be invited, and we are sure that you would figure it
Yeah.
out.
I know. Thank you.
Persistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is amazing. Wow. Like even for me, like I was looking for jobs just for some time, like for 3 years or 4 years, and then work on my own business and
Yeah.
own thing.
And look at you, you are doing both now. So yeah. So I'm also learning something from this call. Yeah.
Oh, that's new.
Humbly honored.
Yeah.
Amazing,
It's
amazing.
just harder, trying to start a business on like a student visa and stuff. So,
Okay.
hopefully my visa stuff gets sorted out and I'll be able
Yeah.
to take, the next steps and starting a business. So
Yeah, yeah. I think that's nice.
That is actually a good problem area. You can provide a lot of solutions in that area. And that could also have a global impact, in fact.
it's
A lot
true.
of people.
It's true. It's true. Maybe I need to give it that a very deep thought. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. All right. Thank you so much for
Thank you
being here.
too.
Thank you so much once again for being with us on this podcast. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Nana. Like it was one of the best podcasts.
Oh, you guys are making me cry now.
We had an amazing laugh. We became emotional with your journey. So there was a lot of emotions in this podcast.
It kept on holding us like till you
Yeah.
reached there. Yeah,
And-
literally. Like you
And I
couldn't
just want to
move.
add,
Absolutely. Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
Amit,
No, it's okay.
you're a great storyteller. Like
Really,
Yeah.
what's crazy? I'm really trying to work on my communication skills, but thank you so much. That really helps me. I feel like I'm making this conversation about me, but the reason why I haven't, because this year I kept telling myself, okay, I really want to be consistent on TikTok, but I just feel so insecure about my communication, like hearing my voice. I don't know, but thank you. Part of the reason why I really wanted to do this TikTok is because I'm really trying to learn how to communicate very well. And thank you guys, as much as this helped you.
Actually, you have a good
It's really good for
communication.
me.
you have a great communication skill, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and you're a great storyteller because we were hooked. I heard your story before, and I was so like excited, and that's why I was like, yeah, I'll invite her to the podcast because this was so interesting. Like I was hooked. And I saw Amit's face during when you were telling because I knew the story and then I was so interested in the story. Okay,
All right, then.
thank you so much. I'll
Thank
see you guys
you.
next
All right.
time.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I was so nice to
And
meet you.
wish you a very good day ahead.
Thank
And
you, and have a
same
good
to you.
night.
Thank you so much. It's my evening, the hustler's evening.
Yes, as you should. Alrighty.
All right.
Right.
Bye.
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 Bye.